Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wild Woman Podcast. I'm just so excited today, as I always am every time I interview the beautiful women that just keep showing up. And another beautiful woman has shown up in my world, and we've just been talking there for a few minutes. And I said to her, I have to start recording because she is just the most inspirational woman. And we only were introduced maybe a few months back, and from my first introduction to her, I just felt my whole self light up. Just a magical woman, and she's going to share her story, her wisdom, her art, everything here today. So firstly, welcome Jade. She is Jade Ladina, I should say, a beautiful artist from the Netherlands, born in Maastricht. She has a story to tell that I will let her tell herself. So firstly, welcome Jade. I'm just so delighted to have you here.
Hello, Celine, and hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here online with you and to be in a conversation with such an amazing soul who has such a deeper meaning to share with her podcast. I'm really blessed to be part of it. So thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. We're blessed as we meet each other, I think, aren't we? We all, and everybody watching, if you are watching, and if you are not, you can watch this podcast and you can listen to it, and you can do both. But I highly recommend watching, because Jade is a phenomenal artist, and she's sitting with the most beautiful backdrop of her paintings, excuse me, which we're going to talk about as we go through the podcast, because she works with sacred geometry, sacred symbolism. And even as I say that, this is what's really, it just really reminds me everything is energy and vibration, which you talk about, Jade, because I can feel it. I literally came on, and I'm saying this to people listening or watching, and I'm sure you'll feel it because you can feel it across the screen and across the airwaves. The minute I came on to the call with Jade, I literally felt my body start tingling. And as I look at her art, I feel it too. And I think I have to start here with, I wasn't going to start with this question, but I have to, because it's just itching to be asked. But you talk about, I know, sacred geometry being the language of the universe and sacred symbolism. Can you just talk about that? Because that really makes sense to me, because I can feel it.
Of course, absolutely. Well, sacred geometry is the origin of human nature, but also of the earth, of the universe. When you take the fertilization and the first cells that appear, the first 8 cells, they form Merkaba. So this is Merkaba,
Mm.
and Merkaba is inside all of us. It's in our root chakra. These cells are just in us. And in the sacred geometry, they give us patterns and forms that we see everywhere in nature. It's in the trees, it's in the plants, it's in Mother Earth, but also inside us. And what a sacred geometry can mean for us is that they lift our vibration. So, me being surrounded by this sacred geometry around me, it's heightening my consciousness. It's making me feel better, not even looking at it, but just being surrounded by it. So, sacred geometry is one of my favorite subjects to paint about.
Mm. And how, just talk a little bit about what led you. I get the sense, and I read a little bit of your bio, that you were, I suppose, inspired or interested in art from an early age. And you talked about watching your grandfather. I just, even reading that, I just got this image painting these beautiful pastels, you said, growing up. So was there always this love? Is this where it started for you? Love
Absolutely.
of art.
When I was looking at the work of my grandfather, I was just mesmerized. It was magic happening, and he was making a creation. And at first, it was just a few lines, but at the end of it, his birds that he was creating were like 3D. And I was just sitting there and trying it also, but mine were flat. But he inspired me to try and just create the best shadows, and a 3D form comes alive. And at that age already, I love the process of a painting being born. At first, we start just with a blank canvas, or just blank paper. But then once we start to translate what we want to say with art, and when it starts to be born, I just fall in love with it. And my grandfather had that as well. He was so passionate, and his eyes started to shine when he was expressing his way of showing a bird. And he was so into nature and so into art. So I really considered at that age already, I want to be like my grandfather. I want to paint and to draw birds and everything that I want to display. And then at 24, I lost my job due to Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. And my best friend, she came up with a canvas. And she said, well, here is some paint. Here you've got some pencils. Just try if you can make something. And my very first painting was Mind, Body, and Soul. So I wasn't creating birds whatsoever. I just tried to give deeper insights, a voice through paint on canvas. But that first painting arrived on my easel. But visitors that came in said, well, you have to do something with that. And what does it mean? Well, and it is this painting, and it was a small one by that time, but I created it in large because I decided I want to display more than just that bird. I want to display life after death, or my vision on life and how we can live it. And creating art just gave me a sense of calmness, but also a really good feeling, like a meditative state. Once I start to paint or to draw, something happens in our brains. It gives us rest. So to me, it was healing to create art. But by the compliments of visitors, I decided, let's do something with it. So the second canvas came, and the third canvas came, and I just lost myself in a passion that lasts for a lifetime, because I don't think I will retire. This is just a calling. Art is a way of life. It's a calling. I need to do it.
Mm. And you were 25, and just thinking, yeah, when you say that, so you were 25, just maybe to explain to the listeners, you mentioned there you got a diagnosis at the age of 25 of, what did you, is it, it's known as EDS, is it? It's quite a
EDS.
rare. So maybe just, can you talk a little bit about that, or how that, because it strikes me that it often is when I talk to people, and in the case of my own life, when something that appears really challenging and difficult, and is in our lives, is often the doorway into the truth of who we are and what we're about. And it's sort of bringing us, it's like a, yeah, like an opening. And it sounds a little like that when you describe it, that it was losing your job through this condition that
Yes,
led you into your art. So yeah, can you just talk about
yes, of course.
what happened?
When I dislocated a lot. That is EDS.
Okay.
So I dislocated a lot due to EDS since, well, 5, 6 years old I was. Then it started, but he didn't know what it was. Well, they knew I had something because as a baby, I didn't stand up. So I was 1 year old and I couldn't stand up. And I was 1.5 and I couldn't just walk. So we knew something was wrong, but my tissues were so soft that I dislocated a lot and I bruised myself quite a lot. So I started to work for the government, and I was doing my education at the same time, but I dislocated more and more. And then at the age of 24, they discovered that my joints, they had hypermobility. So it was quite a bit of a problem because my backbone, it wasn't straight. So I had a sore neck, and my backbone, the bones of it, they were just in the wrong position. So I lost my job, and it was a really hard thing for me. It was quite a black time at that time.
Mm.
And at the same time, I was a singer in a band. So I was told that I should leave my guitar. my guitar. I think it's the king of instruments. I couldn't believe me not playing guitar anymore. Well, maybe you should try a keyboard. Well, I don't like a keyboard. I want to play a guitar. So, losing my band, I decided to just quit it because I couldn't show up weekly and I couldn't do what I wanted to do. It was quite of a grieving time, but going through that grief and not having a paid job anymore, it also gives you the opportunity to just come to your deepest self. So I went from the top of a valley so deep, and then I decided, well, I want to get my life back. So I was feeling, what should I do? But doing that first painting, I discovered, well, with my art, I can tell the world something. I can use quotes, or I can use the gospel, or I can use holy water from churches, and I can just contribute to create something that is meaningful for other people as well. And of course, for myself, because being surrounded by this kind of art that has materials that are holy, that come from pilgrimage, it's so worthwhile. So I explored that idea, and I took it a bit further. While I was painting, I was putting paper beside me, and I was just poetry-arised about the subjects that I'm painting about. And I found such a healing part of myself. And it was not about, "Well, I'm angry or I'm sad," but it was about, I'm going to heal myself. I'm going to see the bigger vision about life. And I'm going to try to create something that other people want to hang up in their rooms as well. Well, and that worked out. So my art is now in multiple countries, and I've been on exhibits with it. And especially because most of my paintings have poetry added to it. I think it's quite yeah, something to hang up in your room. And now I'm creating the second part where I'm teaching other people how you can create a painting, how you can form a concept and just let a piece of art be born, something that comes from your deeper inside, and just let your hands translate what you try to say. And that's the beautiful part of my life. If I still had a paid job, I wouldn't be an artist like I am today. I wouldn't have the time, but also I think in grief, you can find your true self and your deeper self. And why are we here? What is the meaning? Why are we on this path? And why is this part a bit hard at moments? And then I was thinking, well, maybe I could consider the idea that it was given. Some things are the master plan. We cannot do a thing about that. But maybe a diagnosis is given so we can do something with it. So what I do now is I try to inspire people around me when you are diagnosed, that it isn't something that defines us. It isn't. It's just one part of me, but I'm 1,000 parts. So I started to paint about that, and I created the individual with a poem added to it. Well, I just try to explain that this is a challenge. It isn't a problem. And it's something that narrows my world, but in this narrow world, I can do still so much. So now my walking is decreasing, and I'm not able to walk really far anymore. And I got a wheelchair, and then you can tell, okay, this is a bit more difficult to go in the same tempo in life. And it's a challenge to see this as something okay. But then I start to call my wheelchair a Ferrari, because it's Ferrari red. And that helped. And then I was thinking, okay, I'm in a wheelchair at moments in my day. Then I decided, let's be the most shining person in the wheelchair. So I smile to the world in my wheelchair, and they smile back at me. And some people think, oh, let's look at her with a bit of pity, or I'm not someone you should be feeling pity about. I'm so blessed. I have such a rich life. And every day I feel blessed that I am able to have so much free time to follow a course, to create a course, to inspire, to paint, to write poetry. And if I was just working, would I have that time? No.
Mm, mm. And Jade, I mean, just to listen to you, I just keep lighting up when I'm listening to you. Before all of this, so before you got this diagnosis, what was life like, or what were you like? Did you have this same sense of energy and passion, and was this always really alive in you? Like, what happened through this diagnosis? Because it obviously changed you. And as you said, you couldn't be doing what you're doing now if it didn't happen.
Of
Can you
course, no.
describe, or do you understand yourself, for someone who might be listening and maybe is facing a challenge, and like, even just to talk through what was the process to how this sort of unfolded for you, that might give people some insight and some help in their own lives.
Do think, yeah, as a child, I was in society, and I think, when you don't have a diagnosis or you have never been challenged to go through the depth of life, you think about, okay, I need to follow this education. And this is what people expect of me. I should have a good degree and go find a nice job, which I have. And then you are in a life, I think, that society asks of us. But once you are diagnosed, what happened with me was that I didn't see myself as the society anymore. I wasn't part of being a group of people working at the government. So that fell away. And then I quit that band, but I didn't quit my guitar. I didn't. And I think going through a rough time in life gives us the opportunity, but really a chance that we should be really happy about. Happy, maybe you don't feel at the moment itself, but we get the chance to look at ourselves in an other vision and with new eyes. Why am I on earth? What should I do to create fulfillment? What can I contribute? What I believe is that we are on earth to leave a positive footprint for generations to come and to add something to this earth. And it can be a small step and it can be something really huge, but we are not all Dalai Lama. So we don't have to be huge, we don't have to be perfect. But what is our contribution? When I was a career woman, and I was thinking about, okay, I need to have a follow-up education and I need to have this finished for the government. I wasn't considering these questions that I'm considering since my 24th. I wasn't. So it is a present when you look back at the roughest times. Because in the beginning I was thinking, and now what should I do? I'm still young. I don't know what I should do. So I tried to raise a group of children into the forest and to give them the wisdom of the elder. But I was on crutches and it was going heavier and heavier. But I had 23 children surrounding me while I was telling them the knowledge of the elder. At the
What
moment,
age were you then? Sorry, is this back when you just after your diagnosis?
yeah, after
Okay.
I lost my job, I
Okay.
was thinking, oh, maybe I should do that. While I was painting already, but I wasn't believing that that could grow out to something that would
Yes.
be something that I would be doing the rest of my life. So I tried that. And once I realized that I couldn't go on going to that forest, I was so in pain. I decided, let's write a book about it. So I tried that part. So I wrote 186 pages, but when I was reading it back, I was thinking, well, you use a lot of stop words. You can't do that. But I was still young. But
Mm.
now I get the opportunity to check this again and to rewrite this. And now I do it with videos that I try to show children what is the wisdom that was lost during the generations that were influenced by technology. Life goes so fast, but we are
Mm.
not meant to run a rat race. We are not meant to just focus on career. I believe in balance. We need something that will make us fulfilled at the end of the day. When I wake up, I think, today I will just take these steps and I will do this and I enjoy life. And although I'm in pain, this is the Prozac. We need the Prozac. And I don't think that people that are just working on their careers and just working for a boss and making over hours, I don't think that that is the balance that we were supposed to live. It could be a consideration just to think about what is the deeper meaning of my life. It isn't that job for the government. Why am
Mhm.
I planted in this earth? What are the footsteps that I'm creating here? So when you go through a diagnosis and you're in the deepest pain and you haven't learned how to connect with your deeper self, then you feel pain screaming out loud at the first place. But when you look at it from different angles, and when you learn how you can live with it, but not being lived by pain, then you notice that pain gets at the second place and at the third place because it's up to us. What do we put in the first place and that second place? And when we create a life that's worth living, then you feel your happiness increase. And that's also a hormone in our body. It reduces the pain. It will not give a big voice to pain. Pain shouldn't be screaming in our body. It can hurt and it can hurt really bad. But you can also say, when you take our mindset, how do you complete your day? How get we through life? And then you can consider, or I can just feel really sad. I am not allowed to work and I'm not allowed to walk more than 700 meters at the moment, which is nothing. And it's for a whole day. But when I give that the attention and the thoughts, it grows. But when I check myself, I am able to know how it works, to work with a computer and to just create something online that still gives me fulfillment and it can add meaning to someone else's life. Am I not blessed not being able to walk for more than 700 meters? It's just how you look at it. Is your glass half full or half empty?
Mm. Mm. Wow. Yeah, that's just, yeah, so inspiring. It makes me think as well of the diagnosis I got of cancer. And I can't say I was, yeah, oh, wow, this is great. But exactly like you said, I was living a life for the whatever the official part of society. And I was living a life that felt very empty, really. And I knew deep down as soon as it happened, this is, and I was brought to a standstill, like you say, you know, not in the same way and not with the same pain that you had, but I was still brought to a standstill, and it was deeply, deeply challenging initially. But I know it was exactly what you're describing, bringing me back into myself, why I'm here. How, as a human being, would you describe why we are here? And I know the mission is unique for each person.
I think it's up to each person how you fill that in. But
Mm.
what I think for my life is that we're here with a deeper reason. It cannot be just a coincidence that we were planted here and that we have connections with each other that are just, well, it's nothing. I think it has deeper meaning. And once you connect with your inner spirit and with your deeper soul, you will find the answer. Why are you here? You know, when you go into a meditation and you go really deep and you get inside, we have a library. And in that universal library, all answers lie there. So if you're struggling with what is my meaning, just try to connect with the inner part. It's not in our head. I cannot think of the
Mm.
life that is
Mm.
meant for me. I can feel it. It's inside.
Mm.
So I think we are here to do good, to become the better versions of ourselves. I think we are here to help each other, to inspire, but also to have great connections. When we talk about Tracy Jones, I so love her, but she's so spiritual and an example for me. And we paint together each Wednesday. This is so beautiful, but also this connection. Because of Tracy, I met you. And then I think you are not just for no reason on my path. This is so beautiful what you create for other women and for the listeners. So you inspire and you stimulate to just look further. With all these different guests that you have, I think this is the meaning of your life. And I think it's such an honor to be part of it and to connect with other people who are like-minded. And what
Mm.
I do believe is in a world where it's also a bit of a, how do you say it in English? Well, I'm Dutch, so excuse me for every word that I
English is
say wrong.
beautiful.
Oh my God. But you have conspiracy thinkers. We have Corona happening, what created such a polarization. There were a group against it and a group before vaccination, it was quite calm. But then the vaccination option came. Well, it went to fights in the Netherlands, just verbally, and verbally fights, and some friendships were just cut off because they want to convince someone else why you should not have your vaccination. And I'm thinking that some people are not aware of the energy that they are spreading. But I think women like you and I, we are aware of the energy and of the life that we are spreading, the light that we are
Mm.
spreading. And I so love that the light will increase when we are just being ourselves, and
Mm.
we have something to say and have something to inspire, and it's good and it's light. I think it's also our meaning to spread more light into the people around us, and they will influence others to just go for the deeper meaning and go for the good in life.
Yeah.
And I love this connection because I can just feel it coming from
Me
my soul.
too. I know this is it. We're meant to, I get the same sense that we've been sort of educated, or whatever word you want to use, to think life. And we're not designed to think life. We're designed to feel life and to sense life. And to me, a lot of what you're describing coming out of what your job and through your illness was like that shift, because we are sentient beings. We are meant to feel, to connect, um, and the how rich that is. I experienced that in my own life through cancer. Sometimes I find it hard to put words on, but I feel now. I didn't feel anything for years. I thought a lot, but I didn't feel anything. And I think and I just your view on this as well. I know I don't want to keep focusing on pain, but I know sometimes we do go through a lot of pain, and we try. It's a big passion for me to sort of to be part of, because I think it frees us, and you're such an example of it. When we find a relationship or through our pain, it can be physical, it can be emotional, um, just even, yeah, can you just touch on that a bit more? Because I think there's something that really, what's the word? It's like as you go into it, it's like something bursts open if you allow yourself into it. It sounds like you had no choice. You had to go into, you deal with this physical pain. But in how you've looked at it and sort of gone into it, something has sort of burst open. I get this sense of sort of you just burst through a doorway. And I know you're still living with pain. It's not that it has disappeared. So it's like the more it's been with you, it seems like the more you're shining. So
Yes.
yeah, like
And the
it's
more
just,
powerful we can become, really,
mm,
the more power you find in yourself. Because dealing with this, my pain is progressive. So each year I'm able to do less, and it's not something that one person on earth has ever healed from. So going through these dislocations sometimes got me into a bed where I couldn't stand up anymore, or it got me in my triple chair or wheelchair for weeks. But dealing with that, I think let's say if I didn't looked at it, and I didn't went through the pain, would I be on top of the mountain where I am nowadays? I don't think so. So I was in grief. Well, let grief be a part of your day. Let it pass through every cell of your body. I feel in pain. I lost my job. I don't know what to do. let it be and welcome it. Just cry from the bottom of your toes and feet and just cry and go through that period. Because when we don't want to face it, it's there still. And if, let's say, next month I still didn't face it, it's waiting for you. And if you don't face it, you can get a burnout. You will not flourish. People with a diagnosis, we can still flourish. And it doesn't matter if the pain will ever go away, we can still flourish, but it's up to us to just not silence the voice of pain. I don't silence it, but it's now at the 10th place because I decided I want to thrive. I want to create art. I want to make poetry. I want to build up a business. Okay, let's go for that. I want to build up a second business. Now I'm going for that too. That is the art of nature and going for my art. But when I wake up, I'm thinking about, okay, now I'm going to go to my website today and I'm going to do this button. I'm going to learn how this works. And after that, I will write a poem again and I will take my art again and make a new sketch. Or I am going to go for a really lovely holiday. What do I want to see in this holiday? So then I start dreaming. I want to see a real Leonardo da Vinci. So this year I turned 50. My partner and I, we started our camper van, and I'm having an electric step so I can go to a museum and go to see the things that I want to do. And I saw 3 Leonardo da Vinci's. And Leonardo da Vinci is using sacred geometry in his art a lot, and symbolism and hidden messages. And I so love that about him. He's my #1 artist. So having that dream come true, the months up front, I was already enjoying it. So I think when you take a point, I would really love to do this. Enjoy the steps that you take towards it. And afterwards, just celebrate it. But I don't celebrate it just once, I do it 3 times because life isn't just how do you say it in English? It's not just a given thing that we are able to do everything. And once you get something that makes your mobility to a challenge, like it does to me, then it becomes a bit harder to reach the goals. But I think path A is not suitable for me. Okay, how do I create path B? Please consider how you can get there. Please do the things that will keep your vibration up and running, the things that make you tingle. We need these.
Mm,
These are the
mm.
painkillers. I don't take any painkiller, and I hope that I can do it still for years to come. I don't want the painkiller. But I think when you think about the things that we can put in our agenda and how we can build up our life, or what is fulfillment to me, that you can live without painkillers. In my situation, I'm not judging anyone else
Mm.
who is in pain. I cannot judge. I don't want to discuss other people's pain or decisions
Yes.
that they make. But to me, these are the things that give me the it's like giving a present to yourself. What do I really want to achieve? In our last conversation, we were talking about the caves where Mary Magdalene was living.
Yes. I was just
Yes,
thinking, you went there, didn't you? Did you visit,
yes,
you visited the cave?
yes. It
Yeah.
was for my
Describe that
40th.
for the listeners. I mean, that's incredible.
It,
Yeah.
it was such an inspiration. You know, the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, that book. I was reading that book, and it's all about the Holy Grail. And I was considering for myself, what do you want to do when you become 40? And I didn't have a partner, so I decided, let's ask my best friend Marlene Velting to go to France and to follow the route that is described in the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. So we were in the basilic where her skull is for Mary Magdalene. We slept in the cloister that was attached to that. It was beautiful. That route, if you want a lovely route, just contact me. It was a spiritual route, and but so heartwarming. But then I decided I would really love to visit the caves. And we
Mm.
were standing at the bottom and we were looking up. Oh, that's high. and I was braced. So I had every brace on that I had to be able to reach that cave. There's no wheelchair that can go up there. And walkers were going down, and they said, well, should you do this? You don't look really mobile. It was quite a long trip. It was so hard. Some people can complain. I need to laugh about it. So Marlene and I were looking at each other and we said, okay, it took them a few hours. We will take all day. And while we were walking up, I was placing myself on every bench and just celebrating the view. We were walking that route up there. It is a pilgrim route. It was mesmerizing and it was so giving me the chills. So each time I saw a bench or a rock that I could rest on, I was resting and I was checking my legs and they were braced, and I was wearing these mountain shoes that would fix my ankles, and I had my ankle braces on. And yes, the physical was there. It was hurting.
Sounds, Jade, just when you're talking about walking up as well to Mary Magdalene's cave and some of the things that you're doing, it's like what comes to mind for me is that all of life is meant to exist at once. It's not, I'll get through the pain and then I'll do this, or I'll finish my job and when I retire, I can do this. It's like what you're sort of demonstrating, that it all, you can have the grief and the joy and the heartache and everything can coexist. It's not that one has to finish before. Is that the sort of sense of the nature of life? Like everything is all going on at once and everything's interconnected. It's very inspiring to hear you talk like that. It's allowing it all, really, isn't it? From what you're describing,
Yes.
allow the pain and then allow the joy, allow it all in.
Yes.
Right.
If you want to go through it, you have to face it
Yes.
and allow it.
Yeah.
Especially how you described it earlier. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful. And we cannot deny it. We cannot put it away. It's there.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that's with the bigger subjects in life as well.
Mm.
Besides pain, we have subjects. You cannot be blind for it. There
Yeah.
are subjects that we have, like having fear. You can decide, oh, no, 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 that subject, it gives me fear, so I'm not going to do it. But you can also decide, okay, welcome fear. I will take you under my arm, but I will walk. So I will go for it, and I am fearful, yes, but okay, embrace it and jump out of that plane anyway. Just do the things that you, when you have something that's a wish inside, why
Yeah.
should you let fear hold you back?
Yeah.
You know, outside of the comfort zone, that's the place where happiness lies and true lessons are. So why should we consider even to hold back because we don't face anything or we are just spooked off by a subject? Well, just uh, let it be, and be that person that is happy and still in pain, but is living a life that is fulfilling for yourself so you can grow. And when I end my day, I think, oh, thank you, universe. This was again an amazing ride. And thank you for all the opportunities and for all the doors that opened for me. And be grateful about that. Then it will increase also. You will notice more subjects that you can be so
Mm.
thankful
Mm.
about. It isn't
Mm.
just something that we should take for granted. It's something really special. And I think all starts with a mindset and our own energy.
Yeah. I agree. Like it sounds like when you describe how you came out of your job, and it's like we're sort of removed sometimes from the limitation that we even don't know we're in. And when we're initially removed, it's like shocking. And oh my God, how will I survive? And because this is how we've sort of been trained by society to believe this is the way you're meant to exist. And it seems I feel very grateful now to my experience with cancer and every single challenge I've had. And even though, yeah, sometimes I can still, new things can happen that can be challenging, but I still know that they're calling me to a sort of greater, more joyful version of myself. It's like, as you said, you have to it's like going beyond that limitation. It just feels that that is what you were taken out of. And sometimes, yeah, that it is through something difficult, because there isn't any other way that we can be stopped, isn't it? How else can it happen? I don't know. If we don't know we're in it, you know what I mean? If we don't know we're in that limitation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you reached that point in a really good way already. Doing that
Mm,
podcast that you do, didn't you have your first podcast that you were thinking, oh my God, I need to be on camera. This is going to be
mm,
recorded. How am I going to
mm,
do this?
mm.
Well, but you did it anyway. And
Yeah.
now you can reach people and you can inspire with your story and with your strength. And your strength is inspiring me as well to just be strong within ourselves, and not because someone asks us to be strong, and to embrace that fear, but take that step. So you started a podcast, and I started to video record how I'm painting and to show people how you can create a
Mm,
painting. It is in that place where also we self-learn. We are learning while we are able to inspire someone else. But the subject is so beautiful. It's so pure. All the
mm.
subjects that you are discussing with the people that you invite for your podcast, I just love it.
Oh, thank you.
It's,
But doesn't it show how interconnected? That's another aspect. And I just want to talk about as well that the sacred geometry and what you've learned from, because I know you studied a lot of ancient cultures and wisdom that has brought you to this place with your art and your what you have to contribute to the world. But what really I've experienced as well, again, for anyone listening, and if you're sort of feel a bit stuck or something has happened and you're brought to a standstill, if you've if there's an openness there, what I noticed, I was sent people who helped me unlock the next step of my journey, because there were times I had my hands in the air going, I don't know what to do. I can't go back. I just can't. Like, that person is gone. I'm not able, but I don't know what to do, how to live, how to make money, how to create. What am I going to do? And people showed up. And I think, I don't know if you found that if there's an openness, we're all sent to each other. And like what you said with the podcast, and then I'm sent all these women, and they're now teaching me every step of the way what I need to learn for my next stage of the journey, because we're just all one part of, we're all part of the puzzle, really, aren't we? Of each other's puzzle. So
we
you don't have
are.
to figure it out on your own.
No, we don't. When we combine like sisters, when we combine powers, or when we listen to your podcast, it inspires me immensely. I'm just having my headphones on and I'm doing the things that I want to do, and I'm listening to you speaking to all these beautiful souls. I'm just touched by life, by the complexity and the pureness of these conversations that you are having with these beautiful women. They inspire me, you inspire me. And I think when something is meant to happen, doors will open. So these women, they were all sent to you and they all show up and doors will open. But when you have a subject that you decide to do that is not about to happen, that isn't supposed to be on your path, I also believe then you hit your little toe and then oops, something drops and oh, this not doesn't go well. Listen to the signs that appear around you if something needs to happen or not, and then you get a certain idea, maybe I should reconsider this, or maybe I should change the plans a bit, and then see what happens. The universe and the energies around us, they just react on the things that what we are doing. So when doors keep on opening and beautiful people show up and you're ending your day and you're feeling really deep inside, oh, I feel good and I even feel better than yesterday, then that is supposed to happen. Then you're on the right path.
Yeah.
These are all clues.
They are all clues, aren't they? As you said, everything is that what you've really, in terms of your study of sort of the sacred geometry and the quantum physics, is that what it's all led you to, that understanding that everything is energy, and every thought, everything's constantly sort of intermingling with each other. And like you said, if you come up against a block, which I often have, and I'm now learning to go, okay, why is this? It feels tight in my body. That's how I'll often experience it. It feels tight. There's something that's stopping me. So yeah, listen, it's bringing us back, isn't it, to our own wisdom, this wisdom that we have. As you described, what did you say at the beginning? The 8 cells that are of the Merkaba that are within us.
Yeah, when you check Merkaba, this is
Yes.
sacred geometry and it's called Merkaba. It's normally in 3D. You see 8 points. These are 2 triangles that are intertwined with each other. When you see the 8 points, this is what happens when a human being is created. After fertilization, the first 8 cells, they have this form. That is our Merkaba inside. That is the root chakra. That is the center of our whole body. So sacred geometry is found in leaves, in trees, in nature, in all types of forms, even microorganisms. You can find the forms of sacred geometry. Well, and you have the flower of life, you have Merkaba, you have the seed of life. There's so many different forms in sacred geometry. But what I do admire in sacred geometry is its influence on the surrounding. So when you hang up sacred geometry in a room, or when you take a jewel that's made out of sacred geometry, it influences each and every cell of our body to feel better, to have a higher vibration, to get a more understanding idea of what life means. What Merkaba does, so the triangle that's pointed to the earth, that's the female part. You can consider it as yin, from
Yes.
yin and yang, and
Yes.
it's darkness. And that one goes into one direction. And the other triangle, that's male, and that's young, but that's light. But what it does, Merkaba in our lives, it draws the energy from our earth up through the feminine, but it also gives us the insight from the world up there that comes in us through the male part. That one goes anti-clockwise, so they go in opposite directions. But you can activate Merkaba in your life in a way that we grow as human beings, that you can increase your consciousness, that you will feel better, and that you can use it for healing your chakra blocks that we have. Merkaba is inside of us, but you can also attach it to your environment and also allow it to be part of your daily life. A Merkaba meditation, when you activate it, you can feel and you can notice the difference once you do it more regularly. So,
okay, so you can do a meditation or something like that
absolutely,
to
yeah.
work with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
the recordings I had already. So this will be on my website and my and on my socials in just a few weeks it will be, but also how to create a painting. So in here is the earth of Lourdes. I don't know how you say Lourdes, France.
Lourdes, is it Lourdes, the place? Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So
Same.
I
Yeah.
was taking the earth from there and the holy water from Rennes-le-Château, another beautiful pilgrimage place. I combine all these materials and then I use sacred geometry to just add to the positivity that is coming from a painting. So when you use sacred geometry, it can have an effect on your life. Just be open to it and try it out.
Yeah. And Jade, does sacred, I thought of something just before I came on with you. Does it show up like it's a language? So do you see it as if certain sacred geometric symbols, if we start becoming aware of them in our lives, are they speaking to us? Are they communicating? Is that how you would interact with them? If you're noticing a particular symbol, does it now? I'll give you an example just to make it clearer. So about back in 2016, it was about 8 months, 6 months before I got the diagnosis of breast cancer. And I was very burnt out and I was flailing around trying to find another way in life and what is going wrong and why do I feel so empty? And what am I doing wrong that I can't seem to do this this journey called life? Like I thought I ticked all the boxes, but it's not working. And I did this course, an 8-month course on as a foundation course in counseling and psychotherapy. And one of the modules, it was a weekend, one weekend every month, was art therapy. And we were all terrified of the art therapy module at the beginning because everybody said, I can't draw, I can't paint. And they were explaining it's not about that. But as we got into it, everybody loved it. But what happened to me was I ended up, because at the end of the 8 months, we had to put all of our, what we had drawn or created together and sort of tell the story maybe, or just, sort of talk about it to everybody else. And what I noticed is for those 8 months, all I kept drawing was spirals, spiral, 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 further in, and me at the center. And one had something in the center, and then one of them had all these black dots all over it. Now, I didn't know anything at this stage. And just before the last class, I got the diagnosis of cancer, and I had to go into the class. And I was like, oh my God, will I tell them? Will I not? What do I do? Because I was in shock. But as I looked at all of the pictures, I could see the story of what was unfolding nearly. I didn't fully understand what it was trying to tell me, but I knew I was going on a journey. It was about growth, and these black marks in it were. So to me, that was the universe. Now I can say was speaking to me through this spiral that I couldn't stop drawing for 8 months.
You were drawn to drawing the spiral. And
Yeah.
I think that needed to happen. And once you don't need that symbol that much anymore, you will be attracted to another symbol, sacred geometry, or another color as well. When I feel really happy, I will use more colorful colors. So when you talk about the black dots, I can imagine that your body knew something was happening. And I think our consciousness will use different types of colors and forms to appear through art. Yeah, but when I go back to the question, does it speak? I think it's also a matter of, do you feel? What do you feel when you're around Merkaba? What do you feel when you're around the flower of life that I have over here? The flower of life, I was drawing that for 2 years. So it was a beautiful way to express myself in different colors and different emotions. And now I am ready for a next step. So I used the Kabbalah, the tree of life from Jewish, yeah. I use that one to combine it in the flower of life. And then I go to the next step, and then I evolve, and then I think, okay, what should I create? But it's not a matter what. I have 10 new ideas in my head already. I just need more time to create them all. I'm filled with inspiration. I can
And the
just
universe is giving you time because it's making you, it's
it
keeping you in
does.
a smaller space. So it's obviously saying you have work to do here. There's so much to share with the world through your art.
Yes.
And can you talk a little bit about your process in painting, Jade? Because you wrote, there was something, I just want to read it. I read it in your bio. Yeah, you said the most amazing part of painting is when the mind, the heart, and the hand are working together. It's in that place where my eyes start to design and my hands translate and create. To me, that sounds like you've just gone into absolute flow with the universe. You're just a sort of a channel for what is coming through. Is that how you experience it?
That is a great compliment that you say that. When I am in front of my easel and there's a blanco canvas, it can happen in a few ways that a painting starts to form and to build up. Um, Sometimes I think, how does this happen? Because I cannot tell, this is my mind that makes it up. I sometimes wonder, why does this happen on my canvas? Why am I using this piece of paper and these materials? But I also think that's a feeling, that's something that comes from a deep place within, and that place is connected to everything around us. So is it me I think it would be just, yeah, that would be too narrow to just say, I come up with that, so I decide, let's create it. I think when you're aligned, that it comes from your mind, your body, and your soul. And maybe it's something outside. I don't know. But I do know as soon as I'm aligned, then my inspiration starts to flow. So when I'm really busy and in a rush and doing groceries, that's not the place where inspiration comes from. Nothing shows up then. But when I'm at ease and in a certain a calm state, making art, it immediately brings me into a calm state. Then I take my sketchbook and I just start to draw all these subjects, and I collect materials. I have a whole drawer filled with materials that are still asking me, I want to be on a canvas. So it's still waiting to be combined. And then another text shows up that I think I want to use this text in my art as well. How am I going to let it form? But just as that poem that arises while I'm creating, new inspiration comes while you are being creative. So, okay, this needs to be added, and this is the word I was searching for. And then I walk away from my poem and my easel, and I'm in my car, and still new words show up. This is what I need in my poetry. And I still got that guitar string. That's the perfect material that needs to find his place in that painting, because it tells us to, well, when I use materials or when I use colors, each and every time you can consider, why do I choose the color, and what's the meaning behind it? Does it need to be in this canvas or maybe be in another one, in the second one? So I think it's so beautiful to be aligned, because in that place we can create. When we are too busy, when we are too tired, when we don't sleep well, inspiration, that's not really good for the inspiration. But
Yeah.
when we feel really, really well with ourselves, with our lives, and when you're just in front of a blank paper, then the things show up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, exactly that has been my experience. I found I've gone from being very much a doing person, and it's like this old um sort of default that I can go to because I was trained in it. We've all been trained like machines for most of our lives,
Yeah.
that it takes a lot of unraveling that, because I wrote a book after cancer and I'd never written anything. And I haven't gone back to that yet because I haven't felt in that flow. But I totally identify with what you say. Once I got into that sort of alignment and I was slowed down, I was in nature more, it just sort of, I would just know the words just came on the page. I didn't plan most of the time anything. And like you, I'd be out in the car and oh my God, I need to say, and I'd be recording it or stopping the car. And where does this go? Why do you keep happening when I'm in the car? A lot of people say this when you're moving, maybe there's some sort of, the way they say children fall asleep in the car with the motion of the car. So maybe it's that motion, because energy is always in motion. And I'm sort of learning the more I'm in a more natural motion, it comes through. So maybe that motion happens in different ways for people, but it feels like it's not a static thing. Like
No,
you're in, as you said, as you're creating, more is coming through. Is that's how it is?
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like you have to jump into that river nearly, don't you? And just rather than standing looking at the river going, nothing's happening.
Thank God it's not the 80s. Then I would have to take a paper and a pen and write it down, because with poetry, well, once I write it down, I will never forget it. But sometimes I had lines pop up and then I
Mm,
didn't write them down. But
mm,
it also, what was I thinking about? I don't know. But now I record it. So I'm in my car, I take my phone and I just tell the things that I need to remember, or the inspiration that pops up. I just make notes on my phone. Thank God for mobile phones. But I do think when we go on our way, and it also happens when you walk or when you're on a bike, you're on your way, and it gives a kind of a pause in our system. Okay, we're doing this. So what shall we think about? Because also lovely conversations you can think about, or well, how are you going to plan this podcast? What are you going to do? What are you going to say? I think about that while I'm on my way to somewhere. So I think maybe it's the activity that while you are driving or biking or
Yeah, I think I'm feeling that more. And even as I listen to you, because often when I sit down and go, I'm going to plan this, nothing happens. Like it just doesn't. I think many of us can identify with this. The time you say, I'm setting aside, and I think that's showing us we're not designed to live in that way. I don't know how I ever sat at a desk all my life. And I suppose there were certain structured things I had to do, but it wasn't my natural state. And I ended up, before I got sick, in a job where I drove all the time. That sort of saved me because I was always moving and in flow. And it does strike me from, I heard a quote, I don't know if you've ever heard this said, it was a poet, I think an American poet, and she talked about being out in the fields walking. I can't think of her name now. And she described ideas or inspiration as clouds in the sky. And she would see them as she was walking and they'd be moving. And she was like, oh my God, I have to get home. Like, I want to grab that and write it down. And then if often she wouldn't, and she just, how she described it was, well, that idea wasn't for me. That's for the next person who catches it. So not to get too, oh my God, I've missed it. If it's meant to be, do you find that in your art? So if you're out and you think, oh, I didn't write that down or remember, it will come back in another way to you.
not even busy with thought, will it show up?
Yeah.
Because when you force something, what was I thinking about? Just smile and just let it at ease. Something else will pop up that will be perfect for this piece of art or for this poem. So it's all a play,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's a play. Use this or change this, or I'm not that hard on myself when I didn't write it down. It's the same with dreams. I wake up in the middle of the night. I know exactly what I dreamt. It was like a movie, and I was a player in it. And then you fall asleep again. Well, the next morning, I don't know what I dreamt. While I was awake and I was thinking about it so clearly, you still forget it. Well, should we blame ourselves? I think that these things in lives are just the play of life. And it's a
Yeah.
gift that you find these stars on your path or this sentence. But when you use it for something where it shouldn't be used, maybe it's the reason why we forget these things. That
Yeah.
you don't use it in this piece of art or this poem or in your book when
Yeah.
you were writing.
Yeah. And Jade, do you ever find that it doesn't sound like you do, ever get a block where you're sort of, oh, there's nothing coming, or I really want to do this today and it's not happening. Does that happen to you? And if it does, what do you do then?
Yes,
Mm.
I think it will keep on happening until I die. I think it's normal for each and every person to have a block. And I must say, when I am going to a doctor and I'm given bad news, that's a subject that can block for a few hours or a few days, but I'm not hard on myself at these moments as well. Just consider it as you just being through an earthquake and it needs to settle and calm down before the inspiration will start to flow again. I think
That's
um,
beautiful.
but also, in the last weeks, I was so occupied with me studying, and I so wanted to finish everything, and I did it. But it costed me so much energy that
Mm.
also at these times, my artwork had to wait because I was busy online and trying to follow all these lessons. But what does happen is that I miss my art. Once I'm freed, and that was last weekend, I was freed from my education and I just celebrated it triple times. So I was so happy I could cry. I was so happy that now my normal life is back to its own structure where art has a place, where poetry has a place. where me going outside has a place. And although it's not that far, although with my Ferrari I can come quite a little. Yes, yes. So I must say, these moments in life do block the inspiration for me.
Yeah.
How is it for you? Are you still writing, or do you notice that sometimes something blocks?
Yeah, I don't think the writing for some reason has been as in flow for me in the last year or two. And I've sort of been guided toward the podcast, and I'm feeling now, as I've added it to Substack, which is a platform of people who may use it themselves or who maybe follow the podcast on it, that it's sort of leading me back in. I think I'm just very interested in what you said there, because I wrote two books and I'd never really written anything, but it just happened. It just sort of flowed out. And I went away, it's quite interesting, last year for a week to a residential sort of artist retreat place in Ireland. Nothing happened. At one poem. And I realized when I was there and afterwards, I got very frustrated, and I went with a vision of what I was going to do. And I was sort of being a little bit, I was to edit something that I'd sort of been working on, but that wasn't ready or was meant to happen. I actually went there and I had some lessons to learn. It was around, yeah, it was around grief and different things. I met different people, and there was a different purpose. I understood afterwards there was a different purpose to me going there, and it wasn't what I thought. So yeah, I feel I'm being led back into it. Sometimes life, I'm learning not to fight or push something that isn't coming naturally.
Mhm.
Because I found, like you described, every time I went to bed there at night, I'd wake up and I was given the line of something, and then that would be it. And it was like, go about your day, we're not giving you anything else. And then I'd wake up the next morning and I got another line, and it went like that. So I was being taught something. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel the writing is gradually starting its way back. And I don't know about you, but I think there's sort of an evolution. There's sort of, you I had to sort of take off a layer, and then some creativity came out, and then it's like I'm going deeper into myself, something else is going to. So it's a dance, really. It's that balance that you're describing.
Yes.
So I'm not fighting it as much as I did, and I think
No.
once you
Well,
do
no.
that, no, once you stop that fight, then the and go, the flow will come back. That's been my problem in life. I've a lot of, even though I'm Piscean, I have a lot of planets in Aries and Mars. So I've this constant push pull all the time I battle with, do, don't do, don't do. So I don't know about you. What astrological sign are you? I'm very interested. I study astrology, so I love it.
Areas.
Pardon?
Areas, how do you
Ah,
put
I was going to say that. Of course you are. You're an
Yeah,
Aries. Yeah. A beautiful, pioneering, free-spirited, independent, energetic lady. Wow.
absolutely. And in Chinese astrology, a tiger. So I'm filled with energy. Sometimes I think, wow, born in this body, I'm just overflowing with ideas, and there's so much to do. And then, okay, then you got EDS, so you need to find your way to be Aries and to be a tiger.
Yeah.
Well, you're not able to move that much, but I'm doing well. I'm really doing well.
Yeah.
But about the lost subject, when you start to force a subject, in my earlier years, I was painting and I didn't see where the next line should be, or what should it symbolize, or what is the color. And I was just forcing it. I will just do this. I will paint this overneath. And the next morning I stood up. I was checking my painting. I was thinking, no, you shouldn't have done that. So it can happen that a painting just pauses for months, that I don't see what should I do next. And that's okay. I decided in life I'd rather not force my art, because I had to put gesso over many paintings already. And when I'm not at ease and not proud of what I create, I just take white paint and I just go over and start again. But when you have an artwork forming, don't force the inspiration, because it will not, no, it isn't as nice as just
Yeah.
letting it go and flow and just wait for, and then you feel it. Yes, this needs to be there. You feel it and you just know it. This will turn out fine.
Yeah. I find that when I read something, I can feel when it's, yeah, that's fine. I think anyone who writes or creates anything, but it really, do you have many pieces of art on the go at the same time, Jade? Would you find, do you work that way, or do you just have a focus of one?
I work at the moment at, I think, 6 paintings at the same time. So one may have a pause, and then there I have another room, and there are paintings hanging up on the walls there that I'm also working on. So I'm walking around with the brush, and I do a bit about this, and then I see, oh, that color can be there as well. So my way to just go to walk towards a painting. Okay, I don't see it today. Okay, take a step back. And what I also notice when I'm lying here and I'm looking at unfinished paintings, also in a pause, in a rest time, I can see the next step. So then I walk towards a new painting, or I create something about an existing painting that is still developing. I just love that because working on one, sometimes I feel like backgrounding. Backgrounding is lovely when you need to go through a certain phase in your life where you want to leave something behind. So when I'm backgrounding, I have my hands filled with air and with paint, and I'm using sponges, and it's rough. And then you start to use texture. So I add soil to it and all different kinds of materials, and that's lovely to do. But when you're fine tuning, sometimes when I'm fine tuning these last lines, these are almost about finish now. Then you notice, okay, I don't have a day today where I should be drawing these lines. You can be bibberen, we say in Dutch. How do you call it when you're not having a steady hand?
Oh, like a wobble or no,
A
yeah,
wobbly hand.
a
Yes.
wobble hand, yeah,
Well, you rather just leave
shaky
that
hand,
shaky hand. Okay,
yeah.
a shaky hand.
Wobble or shaky, it's the same. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Then I just decide to leave this painting and go to a painting where you can do backgrounds or bigger parts of the painting, or do second layers, because most of my paintings have 3 till 5 layers of paint. So, and when I'm back into fine lines drawing, then you feel, okay, this is something that I should do today. And then you're at ease and being patient, but we're not always being patient and at ease, are we? So
Mm.
sometimes I just feel like, okay, let's try something new. Let's go into the garden and throw with paint and then make splatters of it. And well, the most paint was on myself and on the tiles. So that was not something that I should put into a gallery, but it was so lovely because I went, okay, that needed to come out. I just love it.
Mm.
So you need to check your own state and
Yes,
what you want to do. And sometimes I think I want to do these fine lines and it's just not the day. Then you,
yeah. You have to be in, don't you? That's sort of the message I'm getting from you. And I feel it myself coming back into that sort of alignment, and whether that entails going for a walk, getting some sleep, whatever it is, going for a run or listening to some music. Was music a part of creating art for you?
my studio, here it is. Yes, sometimes I play classical music. I've got certain favorites under a list. So sometimes I do these, but I also love Adele. So
Mm.
Adele really loud on headphones, especially when my man is watching football. So that works. Well. And sometimes I just love it. He's now at work to be in silence, and to hear my own thoughts, and to when you form a poem, especially, that's what I do in silence. Or when I want to write something down, that should be in silence for me, not for everyone, but for me that works best. But also sometimes good metal can help.
Which good? Oh, good metal, like
Metal,
heavy metal. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
that's also, yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Whatever.
a variety of music genres. So it also depends on how do you feel today? What is or Lady Gaga has such a beautiful album. Oh my God. And I can cry while I'm just, and then I think these tears should be in my paint as well. So new things form and yes, I'm just overflowing sometimes with ideas.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's why, as an Aries, it sounds like you were sort of not compressed into this smaller space so that all this creativity can just burst out, because it has to come out in some way. And it sounds like you've sort of been not squeezed up and out all this creativity through your art, because it's just stunning. Before we finish up, do you want to read a poem or talk about a piece of art? I know you've shown us the Merkaba, but is there something that's calling to you that you'd like to share? There's no pressure, but if you'd like to. So, as we draw our lovely conversation to a close, it could stay here all day, but we just thought this would be a really nice moment for Jade to read one of her poems to us all. And she wrote, this is her first poem, isn't it, Jade? And
Yes.
you might describe the painting, the first painting. It just seems a lovely place to end, is where you started after your diagnosis and you got into your art and you were handed a canvas, and so it all began.
I
So
love that
we'll
idea.
leave you on this, everybody, just to say thank you. I will have all of Jade's contact points, her website. She's going to have a lovely giveaway for the listeners, which I'll push as well in the description box. So please do check out her work. So just to finish up, Jade is going to talk about her painting and read us the poem that goes with it that came through. So thank you so much, Jade, for being here. Really
Thank you so
appreciate
much
it.
for inviting me. This was such a lovely conversation, and thank you for being on my path and for this lovely talk. Okay, I want to talk about the mind, body, and soul. That was my first one. So I do not believe that the body will end once we are past and once we go over. So what I decided was to paint a body that's just not completely showing. So this body in the middle, she's lying, she's resting, and the drop of blood is the start of her life. So it's our veins and the blood that runs through our veins. That one goes over in our way of life, our life route, and then it just vanishes into nothing. But then the question is it nothing that we go to, or is that a new start, a new beginning? Maybe we just contribute to learn and to come back into another life. It depends on what your belief is. So this was my first painting that I painted in small. So I wanted to uh, celebrate that first painting. So this one is quite big here on my wall. And the first poem that arose while I just had my diagnosis, I want to share with you. So the poem that belongs to this painting and tells more about it is: intense fire is filled with life, immense, outspoken, and deep inside that native core, pure will to thrive. When destiny asks, she dimmed her light. The enigma of a master plan cannot be denied. Beyond common sense, still burning, small but bright. As the flame now bravely carried on, a spirit awake and an energy so strong, it united to the chain of flames where we all belong. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. Thank you, Celine. I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward to talk to you again. Thank you to all the listeners, and keep the good spirit up. You can do this when you are diagnosed. I believe in you.
Thank you so much, Jade. What beautiful words. Keep the flame lit.
Yes, and it will start a new fire all over again.
Thank you, everyone. Take care for now.